So I want to introduce Adam and Sean from Drums Etc. and please be attentive and ask questions. Feel free to ask questions. Give them a round of applause.
So, this is not formal. I am not a teacher. This is not just yell out, interrupt me, say, hey that, hey this. We're just going to kind of take things as we go. For a start, my name's Adam. That's Sean. I know we're just introduced, but that's very important to you guys because we are your local drum shop. And we are 2/3 of the entire staff of Drums Etc. So Goody is now manning the store, and that's very important because it's easy to get in contact with us. If you guys have any questions, not just about gear, but about drumming, about looking into college, like if you just want a second person's opinion on anything drumming or education, or you're starting a band, or you need a PA system, anything around music, we have a lot of experience, but more importantly than our personal experiences, we know a lot of people in the area that have been through it all. You know, so we can get you in contact with the right people. Your local drum shop, are you guys all from around here? I imagine if you went to this camp, right? Yeah. Relatively? Okay. All right. We're your local drum shop. Don't go anywhere else. No. But your local drum shop not only is a place where you can buy stuff, but it's also a place where you can find gigs, where you can promote your band, where you can really just, it's like kind of the centerpiece as far as your connection as a drummer to the music world. So just keep that in mind. But I'd like to start off by saying you're all big nerds. Every single one of you. You are at a percussion camp that is very specific. But the good news is that nerds are popular nowadays. It's very good. I play D&D, and I can say that out loud. Dungeons & Dragons, snaps. I get snaps from my D&D lovers. That's also a nerdy thing, and we can publicly talk about it and not get bullied for it. It's great. So, being nerds, that means we get real geeky about our gear, the stuff that we play. I'm sure you guys are all pretty specific about the sticks that you play, or you're going off a recommendation of someone. So I just want to start by going through sticks, and then kind of divulging, moving around as I feel it's needed through the other gear, what the differences between them are, things to keep in mind when you're buying them. And the other thing is, you're always welcome to come to the store and try stuff before you play. That's like the number one thing that drum shops are extremely valuable to you guys, because you get to play the cymbals, you get to play the sticks on a practice pad before you actually have to commit and buy. I know this personally. It's tough when you first get started, coming up with the money for stuff, and prices are doing nothing but climbing and rising. I saved my allowance from mowing my lawn and my neighbor's lawn at like $5 a pop, $15 a pop if it was a good day. And I bought a $600 drum set from Drums Etc., and that was my first drum set. Before I bought the drum set, I bought all the boring stuff. So I bought all the hardware, I bought all the pedals, all the stuff that you need to complete that drum set. I bought all the boring stuff first because I knew if I bought the shells first, I would be too excited and I would just borrow stuff for the rest of my life. So, I know it's tough. I know prices are doing nothing but rising and it's expensive, but saving a little bit each day, learn to save money. As a musician, you might not get paid too much in the beginning. You might not get paid at all. So learn to save money. That's very, very important. So let's start with gear, sticks. So your basic drum set sticks. Who knows the difference between wood tip and nylon tip? Anyone tell me what the difference is?
It makes a slightly different sound.
It does. It does. So the nylon tips are going to give you a brighter sound on the cymbals, not so much the drums. You're not going to tell too much about that. The rebound's going to be very similar. There's a lot of things that companies try to sell you, but for the most part, go by cymbal sound. The nylon tips are going to give you a little bit different of a sound. And then also wood tips get these dead spots or flat spots, as we call them. So if you hit the edge of a cymbal or hit a rim at the wrong angle or something, you'll get a chip out of it. As soon as your sticks have a dead spot like that, you're going to want to get a new pair of sticks. And that is because you're no longer getting that consistent rebound out of the sticks. And also that affects your sound on the cymbals and the drums especially. So everything that you put into work-wise as far as your technique and everything like that, find a nice balanced pair of sticks. As soon as you get one of those flat spots, you want to consider saving up, grabbing a pair of sticks as soon as you can. In addition to that, flat spots like that and splinter out and will chew up your drum heads a lot faster. So if you have a drum set, that's going to cut down on the amount of time that you need to change out your heads, that sort of thing. Now, This is for folks like me who play drum set most of the time. How many players in here play drum set? If you play drum set, raise your hand. My people, okay. Your marchers, soul marchers?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Snare, tenor, what do you play? Tenor, okay, rad. Have you tried any tenor sticks like this?
I have.
Okay, you dig these, or do you not? This is where I get feedback from you guys. They're great? Okay, do you play snare?
I'm in pit.
Oh, you're in a pit, okay.
Yeah.
You play the bones. I heard someone call the vibraphone that they were playing. They're like, yeah, these are bones, man. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know. It's probably not a cool term for any sort of keyboard mallet instrument, but anyway, okay, rad. All right, so let's transition over to this. So these are timpani mallets, but that does not mean that they can only be used for timpani. It's very important, especially as this is an art form, to consider multi-use stuff. If some cymbal says that it's a ride cymbal, but it's really thin, and you want to play on it like a crash, that's okay. If you want to grab some timpani mallets and you want to use these as cymbals, that's absolutely okay. There are no rules, and we've checked, Sean. There are no drum police.
Not that I'm aware of. No.
So they're not going to come after you. They're not going to get mad at you, write you up for anything. Keep that in mind when you're looking at buying stuff. Think about multi-uses. So, who has ever played
Oh, yeah.
some of these guys? You played those?
Lots
Yeah?
from you.
There we go. Awesome. Hot rods, or hot rods is the overall term for them, but it's actually very specific. These are ProMark hot rods. It's one of those things like where people call tissues Kleenexes because of the brand, that kind of thing. So this is actually an official hot rod. So if we get a call for hot rods, this is technically the most accurate answer, but folks might mean these. They might mean cool rods, thunder rods. There's all sorts of different names, depending on how thin the dowels are, depending on how many dowels there are. And then you jump into the world of synthetic rods. So these guys, these specific ones are made by Meinl. These are multi-rods, same idea, except they're just going to be a little bit lighter on the cymbals because, again, made of nylon. Just like the nylon tip, it's going to switch things up, makes them a little more flexible, so you got to play them a little bit differently. We always recommend going with some that have the wood on the back end, on the butt end, just so you can have that cross stick, you know, if you're playing that sort of thing. All right, real quick before I jump off the sticks. Tip of the stick, the shank of the stick, butt end. It's called a butt end because it's at the butt of the stick. No, there's no reason, there's no rhyme or reason behind these things. Someone just said it a long time ago, and we stick with it. All right, let's talk about grip real quick. How many people play traditional grip? No one? Okay. I was gonna say, there's gotta be some traditional grip players here. Now, let me ask you this. If you're all marchers, or a lot of you are, and you play snare drum, does your school have you play traditional grip? Yeah? Some people like it, some people don't, it seems. Well, either way. So you've got traditional grip, just like this. You've got matched grip, which your hands are doing the same thing. They are matched up top. Traditional grip actually came from history, from marchers in wars and in battle, war times, that kind of thing. Parades, that kind of thing. Parade drums are worn around, are worn on a sling, and actually rest on your leg on the left side typically. And this was just to get at that drum because that drum head is coming down flat like this, and this is not comfortable. It's all about ergonomics. So when you're setting up your drum set, even if you're sitting in on a school kit, or if you're sitting in on a lesson kit or whatnot, you want to make sure you set it up for yourself. So don't just take whoever was playing it last, sit down and just say, yeah, this is probably fine. You want to make sure that you have good posture, that your legs are further extended than 90 degrees, meaning that you're not playing like this, sitting behind the kit, you're sitting up on the kit or over top of the kit, and then you want to make sure everything is comfortably within reach. I know it's tempting to, oh boy, I just realized that some of my references might be older. You guys know Travis Barker?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just making sure. I just thought it, I was like, uh-oh. But you're like, hey, Blink-182 fans out there? All right, so might be tempting to set up like a Travis Barker type setup where everything looks really flat and high, but that's incredibly uncomfortable to play, especially when starting out, right? So it's okay to tilt things a little bit closer to you. Make sure your cymbals are at a good posture. You want to make sure that your cymbals don't look like this, because when you strike a cymbal, all of the vibrations from your stick, you can look up a video, slow motion on YouTube. It's really easy to find. Really cool to watch, right? All of the vibrations, or all the energy that's from your stick is transferred throughout the cymbal. So when a cymbal's like this, and you strike it, this goes, and it goes the whole way around the cymbal just like that. When you're like this, all of that energy that you're putting into the cymbal hits here. You're now in this inner ring, which is much more brittle, much more fragile. So that's why you see folks cracking cymbals along this kind of place, right? So you want to make sure your cymbals are actually a little bit more flatter rather than tilted towards you. It's kind of opposite of what most people think. Now your ride, that's a different thing. Cymbals that you're playing rhythms on and that sort of thing are typically going to be made differently and constructed to be able to take all that staccato abuse, right? But crashes, splashes especially, real easy to bust up a splash. Real easy if it's at the wrong angle. So, this is where we deep dive into cymbals. I hope this applies to all of you now. I know this has been nonsense to you. This entire time you're like, I don't care. All right, so, where is my water bottle? It's somewhere. It's somewhere, I promise. All right, we're going with that. So,
It's over there.
thank you. First, I'm going to take you through all the reasons why this cymbal is $309. It's over here. Thank you. And then, we're going to talk about why this cymbal over here is only $100.
Because it's a Zildjian, they can charge that much.
I mean, no. You're not wrong, but you're also not right. They're a little out of hand lately. They're a little out of hand. Sorry, children. So, it's the truth though. So, making this cymbal, it starts with molten metal. So don't think that it's just a big sheet of metal that they punch these things out of. That's that end of the spectrum. This starts with molten metal. We're mixing copper and tin to make bronze. So most cymbals that you'll see are going to be made of bronze. It is an alloy, which means there's multiple metals that go into it. Contrary to what you think, because you think tin can cheap, the more tin that goes into something, typically the more expensive it is because it's harder to work with. So this guy starts out as molten metal, and they pour it into these tiny little molds, and you end up with a hockey puck. Literally a hockey puck sized cymbal. That's what it looks like. It's thick, round, like a hockey puck. They take that, and they roll it a bajillion times back and forth until they get it flat as a pancake. Then they punch the sound profile, which is going to be the overall shape of the cymbal, into it. So you guys can see here that this, if you look at it from the side, that's what we're talking about, is the curvature of that and then the bell popping up top. So they pop that into it. Now at this point, it sounds, quite literally, like that. It sounds horrible. There's no tonality to it, there's nothing. After this, they have to cut it into a round shape. So they punch a hole in it just to hold it, and then they put it around a machine, cuts it into a circle. Once they have a circle, then it goes into a sort of treatment process. Now, all cymbals start out looking like this. Extremely ugly, right? This is how it looks right after they finish hammering it. So, at factories like Sabian up in Canada, they actually have guys like sitting there hammering the cymbals. Zildjian and Meinl do a similar kind of thing, except they've got machines that do a lot of it. So they'll have someone running it through, getting hammered. So before you get a cymbal, it's been hit thousands of times. Not everyone, but it's been hit a lot of times. So technically, every cymbal that you buy is used, even if it's a brand new cymbal, because it's been beat up harder with more force than you're ever going to hit it with, right? So it starts like this, and then they need to lathe it. So that's the difference between this and this. This cymbal's been lathed, this has not. So lathing, they put it up on a big spin wheel. Do you guys, do you ever do that spin art where you put the piece of paper in, it spins, and you put like the colors in it, and you see what comes out at the other end? It's essentially what they do here. They put it in a machine, spins the cymbal really fast, and a guy takes a big knife. That seems crazy. That seems like wild that that's actually how they do that, but they do. They spin it really, really fast, and they take a little bit off at a time. Depending on how hard that guy pushes in and where he's pushing it in, is going to affect the sound profile of the cymbal. And they experiment and do a lot of things along the way with that. but then you end up with something that looks like this. So you see those hammer marks come through, but there's no longer that exterior. When you have a cymbal that is typically left unlathed, a little bit thicker on there, but still intensely hammered, that's where you get a lot of darkness from. So this is a dark cymbal. Hear that? A little bit ugly, a little bit shorter sustain, that sort of thing. That all has to do with the amount of material that's on there and how many times it's been hit. And then this is a brighter cymbal. All right, so then after that, then you go ahead and stamp it, put the logos on it, that sort of thing, and then a guy literally sits in a room and has one cymbal that was the very first, or one that was made off of the first batch, of a Zildjian A Fast Crash 18-inch cymbal. And he compares them. If it is not up to the standard, if it does not sound within a certain sound spectrum, and companies have different standards for this, you know what he does? He takes it and throws it back into the molten metal, and it becomes another cymbal. Because they're not going to sell something that's inconsistent. That's how that works. All right, so all this process, there's probably 15 to 20 people that have worked on this Ziegel cymbal before it is sold or sold to the stores and before you guys can buy it, right? All that process, this is B8 bronze, cheaper, 8% tin, that's what the number's for, in the alloy mixture. Put this on a big sheet, stamp it out. 0 people involved. 1 guy to program the machine. Right? So that's the difference. That's why the spectrum of cymbals is so varied there. Right? Now, there are other companies that have been trying to mix things up. This is a Peisty PST7 crash, and this line, as you can see, looks like the B8 bronze, and it is. It's made of the same material, but they process it differently. They make the cymbal different. They actually put the hammering, they put time into crafting around that, and then that comes in somewhere in between. So it's not as inexpensive as this, not quite as crazy and as expensive as this, and has a nice sound. So, you have spectrum on cymbal. All right. Now, what do you guys think? Do we want to go drum heads or do we want to go percussion? I know percussion looks more fun, but drum heads actually gets me more excited.
Drum heads.
Okay, sounds good. Good choice, guys. So, drum heads. Let's talk drum heads. So this is 1 mil thick. This is plastic. Most of the time that you sit behind a drum set, you're taking wood sticks and you're smacking a piece of plastic. It's a very oversimplification of what we're doing, but that's what's happening. This is 1 mil thick. Who wants to guess how thick that is?
Millimeter.
Nope. I know. Sorry. I had to bait someone to say that. This is 1/1000th of an inch, which is hard to say. But think about that. Think about all the pressure and strain that you're putting on this, and it's 1/1000th of an inch. And this is the most common 10 mil drum head. I should say that. So it's 10. But this is what most guys are playing. You know, there are thicker heads, thinner heads. They all change the sound. When tuning a drum, this is just a great rule of thumb that I learned years ago. When tuning a drum, the top head is going to control the pitch. So that's that initial note that you're making, and the bottom head is going to control the resonance. Just general rule of thumb. There's a little bit more that goes into that with how the vibrations happen, but that's something good to keep in mind. So, if you're playing a drum and it's a lot higher than you want it to be, go ahead and loosen that top head. A little bit goes a long way, right? So literally 1/4 of a turn, 1/8 of a turn, a little bit is going to go a long way. When you're tuning up a drum and you put a brand new head on there, the key to keep in mind is even tension. There are a lot of guys out on YouTube, there's some guys on Instagram doing crazy experimental stuff, and that's okay, and that's fine. But general rule of thumb, start with even tension, right? So the best way to do that is to finger tighten all of the lugs, all the tension rods around the head, around the drum, and then just 1/4 turn at a time, and just bring it up slowly. Same thing on the bottom. Now, you hit a drum and it goes, down. You got to tighten up your bottom head. That will tighten up the sustain. All right, clear heads versus coated heads. Clear heads are going to give you the most true sound of the drum, meaning they impact the sound the least. Coated heads are going to be a little bit more controlled, but to be honest with you, if it's a 1-to-1 comparison, it's not that big of a difference. So if you like the aesthetics of this, you bought a nice drum set, you want to see the shells, that's fine. Don't go with coated for dampening purposes because it's a very minimal difference. Now, typically, snare drummers, or snare drums in general, ring out too much. People don't like that. One way to start off with getting some of that ring out is to tune it. Tuning it in a different tonality range from your rack tom is going to help a lot with that noise when you hit a rack tom, you know what I mean? And it buzzes. The first place to start when you're trying to get the best snare sound should be the drum head itself after the tuning. So if you can't get what you want out of tuning, swap the head out. There are some heads that come with dots like this in the back. This is a controlled sound head. That'll help. There's other things like you can see over here on the kit, maybe you can't see. There's dampening such as moon gel. We've got like generic gels that we have at the shop too. Stuff like that is really nice just to control that ring a little bit. So snare drums typically get that. And then toms, people typically want to make toms sound beefy. Vibrate the room. So this was introduced years ago. This is the Evans hydraulic head. This is 2 plies. So instead of the 1 piece of plastic, there's actually 2 here, and they put drops of oil in between. So you can kind of see as I move this around, see the light refracting in there. There's all sorts of stuff like that they come out with. And, like I said before, it's all about experimentation. So try it. This is a little bit too controlled, too thuddy for me, but sometimes it's the right tool for the job. All right, so who knows what this is?
Calf skin, right?
Close?
Beat up bass drum head.
Not quite. Technically, this isn't a drum head yet, but it is goat skin, and it will become a drum head as soon as I get another djembe reheading order, and I will put it on a drum head, right? So this is actually skin, kind of gross to think about, but all these fancy plastic heads started out as skin. Skin on drums. They were tacked on, so there was no tuning, there was no nothing. So just be very thankful that nowadays you don't necessarily have to put skin stretched over your drums just to be able to make a sound, right? This right here, this parallel line that goes down, that's actually where the goat's backbone was. And that's gonna be the thickest part of the skin. And that's actually what a lot of hand drummers and djembe players enjoy playing because it produces a nice even sound, even tone. So technically this is just a piece of skin. Once I take all of this rope off, which takes me like an hour, and then there's 2 rings in here. This is the old goat skin, and you can see that's that line right there. Once I take that off, I can wet that, and that becomes thin and pliable. It's like I could wear it on my head. It literally could make a mold of my face. It's that thin and that pliable once it's soaking wet. Then I can bend it into the shape, and then once it dries, it's real brittle. So, years ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there was a time called the 90s. And during the 90s, djembes were where it was at. This is what you wanted. You wanted a djembe. Sit around a campfire, maybe. But drum set players had this as their portable option for playing. It was extremely popular. And then the 2000s came, and this became the new djembe. This is a cajon. This originated from South America and from a lot of street performers playing on crates, on like shipping crates and that sort of thing. And it hasn't evolved too much since then. It's a wooden box that you sit on and you play. Now, if you're a drum set player and you've got your kick, snare, that sort of jam, beat, obviously you got some cymbals in there, you got another hand, you could be flaring the hi-hats with your foot potentially. This simplifies it. Any drum set player, not even drum set player, anyone with rhythm can play on a cajon and make it sound good. So this is your kick, and this is your snare. And that's it. It's very simple. But what the new trend will be, I don't know. But as of right now, there are still cajons. Sales are a little soft, but there are still cajons, and there are still djembes. What the new acoustic drumming instrument will be. Maybe you guys will figure it out. Who knows? So, in the evolution of the cajon, then you have hand drum players who like that feeling of playing on a djembe, playing on congas, playing on bongos perhaps. They want something more comfortable. They don't want to be hunched over a cajon the entire gig. So they make fun inventions like this. This is a slap top cajon. So you play on top, you've got your bass, you've got your snare, but now you've got what might be like a hand drum or a conga. Something a little bit different. All of a sudden you get these different rhythms that were from the Latin percussion world get tossed into what was just pick and snare, right? So, a little bit of everything in the percussion world. You guys are likely familiar with, I'm going to use every stick, by the way, one at a time. You guys, I just saw all your feet go like this and like move a little bit. Because a lot of band directors use that as like their metronome, right? That sort of thing. So this is not a wooden block, but it is a wood block, meaning it's not made of wood, but that's the idea, is it came from these wood blocks that the drum set was initially, when the drum set was initially introduced, they had wood blocks kind of on the bass drum, kind of as a sound effect. You guys call them Glock blocks, I know. Similarly to that, other timekeeping things showed up. Now, before I say the name, if anyone walks into drums, etc., and makes the more cowbell joke, I will kick you out. I don't hesitate. We have a code cowbell, and then I ring a bell, not a cowbell, and Sean comes out of the back, puts you over his shoulder, and walks out of the store and just kicks you to the curb. We've heard it so many times that it's off limits. So, let's talk about percussion cowbells real quick. When adding them to a drum set, you want to get one that can mount. We've got mounts that go everywhere. Bass drum, snare drum, off a cymbal stand, off a hi-hat stand, all sorts of things. And then you want to consider what the sound is initially, right? This is a very open LP Black Beauty cowbell. Pretty open, right? But that's not rock and roll. That's not rock and roll. LP came up with these, which are called Ridge Riders, which protect your sticks a little bit, which is nice, because as you know, you don't want to have to buy an extra pair of sticks every time. But this is like the ultimate quintessential rock and roll cowbell, right? You're just all singing Don't Fear the Reaper in your head, I know. Yeah. I know. So, as far as percussion is concerned, we love it. And we are almost strictly drum set players. That's how we started. We did not start in the world that you guys are from. And we are very jealous of that. Because you guys have a lot of incredible instructors. You learn through school. You learn to read from an early age, that kind of thing. Sean and I come from the School of Hard Knocks, aka our basements and our garages. Right? So when we started out, drums were the drum set, and there was nothing else there. But since we've expanded into a huge world of percussion, and we love it, and we've expanded our education after the fact, right? So don't be afraid to add a little percussion to some fun. I know out here you're talking about musicality and switching it up, playing the same beat, but like the phrasing or like the sound source or the dynamics are a little bit different. That can make or break an entire performance. So, maybe instead of playing on the hi-hat, you start a song off soft and you want to play a shaker. Maybe that's how you start off the song, right? Say you're recording or something, you don't know how to play, you're like, wait, aren't these just shakers? You just stagger it a little bit and that can be the difference, you know? That can be the difference in a recording, in a performance, that sort of thing. And you don't have to know much. Like I said, I knew nothing about this stuff. And I just picked up some maracas. You get a little bit different vibes just from shaking them, right? All right? So be open to that. Now, then, this beauty was born. 2 years ago this came out, and it is a glorious, glorious thing. It's just a shaker. It's just another shaker. That's pretty much, half of our percussion section is just different shaped shakers. But I mean, you could hold this little cylinder, but also you can hold a pineapple and be really, really cool. So, the world of percussion extends all sorts of avenues. There's a lot of influence from Latin percussion, and there's a lot of influence from Latin percussion, but then also Asian countries as well. They all have their own take on it. For example, this is the traditional African hand drum, the djembe. The traditional drum from Morocco, from North Africa, rather than South Africa, is very different. It's metal versions of talking drums. Have you seen those? I didn't bring one today, but they got a bunch of ropes on the side, and you can actually change the pitch as you're playing them. Now, an African talking drum, which is basically a two-headed version of this, an African talking drum is played down here. Why? Because there are a lot of ritualistic things that happen where you'd be marching or moving around in South Africa, right? But that same drum, same playability, is made of metal because of the available resources in Asia. And in a lot of Chinese cultures, it's actually traditionally played up here, by your ear. And that's because, traditionally, drummers are also expected to sing and be very, very in key with pitch. So they need to be able to hear it better. So there's that kind of thing. Now, who has ever played double bass drum pedal? You got one? Do you like it?
Yeah.
Good. There's always one. There's always one. So, you guys are familiar with a single bass drum pedal, right? There can be chain straps, all sorts of things, all sorts of bells and whistles. No one cares about the details of that. Double bass drum pedal, you don't need a second bass drum now. Single bass drum, this one controls the second beater. So you can go back and forth and get all sorts of extra notes in there. Giant drumsticks. They love to make an entrance. Who knows what these are for? No? Come on, someone come up with a sarcastic, witty answer.
Dogs?
Showing off.
Good, I like that, showing off, showing off. I'll also accept giant drums. I'll also accept putting up on your wall just because they're funny to look at. All right, so I want to touch, I know we dove into gear and stuff, but I want to touch real quick on some real life advice and a little bit of my story, okay? So I started Drums Etc. in 2014. It is now 2023, so I've been there a long time. I am the owner of the shop. I have been for about 2 years, right? So what happened in between? Well, actually, when I reached out to the shop originally, there was no job openings. It was made very clear to me that no one, literally no one, was leaving or had any thoughts of leaving. There were only a few guys. Like I said, there's only 3 of us right now. It's not a very common thing for a small business to have, open interviews, that sort of thing. But I said, I don't care, because I had some time. I was in school, and I said, hey, what if I just show up? What if I just show up? And I said this to Sean. He's like, well, hey, we could use a hand around here. So I got Rick Hamilton, who was the original owner, who started the shop in 1985. I got his email. I emailed him. I showed up. I was very, very annoying. Right? And I said, hey, let me just work here or learn the ropes. I'll just give you a hand. And he said, okay, sounds good. Yeah, do you want to come by one day just to shadow to see what it's about? And I said, yeah, sure. So I came on a Thursday, and I said, hey, do you mind if I come back next Thursday after school? He said, yeah, that'd be fine. And the next Thursday I said, hey, do you mind if I come back next Thursday? And he's like, yeah, do you want to just come every Thursday? And I said, yeah, sure. So for almost a year, I worked for absolutely nothing. I showed up, I literally got out of high school, got in my car, drove to Lancaster, Drums Etc., and worked for 5 hours every single day. Eventually, someone had to leave, and who's he going to hire? The guy who has experience, who knows the ropes, who's been there. You know what I mean? And at that point, I got hired, made nothing money-wise, barely anything, but I was officially on the team, worked my way up, and then years later, through working with Sean, I learned all of this stuff. I knew none of this stuff. And believe me, I could talk about this all day. But I knew absolutely nothing when I first started, besides I like playing drums in my basement. That's it. You guys are way ahead of that. You are way ahead of where I was, right? So, the point of me telling you this is if you have a passion for music, there are plenty of places and plenty of ways that you can make money at it. My story with this is obviously the retail side of things, right? So this would be what I consider the manufacturing and industry side of things. We are a company that buys stuff from the manufacturers. So I talk to my guy at Meinl. I talk to my guy at Ludwig, my guy at Meinl, my guy at Sabian here, and we get the stuff. They make the stuff, sell it to us, we sell it for slightly more to you guys, right? That's one avenue. The other avenue is education. All of your teachers here found a way to be successful and be around music in that way, right? And the other thing is performance. There are plenty of people who can who have made a living in different avenues, whether it's just playing gigs locally on the weekend, a supplemental income, whether you join the Air Force Band, it's a pretty good gig, or you decide that you want to go full time, you want to do the whole move out to LA thing, and get in a band and play spots out there and do touring, that sort of thing. There are plenty of places where you can find money in music. So I encourage you, if drumming is your passion, to be bold and drive to drums, etc., and bug me. Talk in my ear, say I should be here, I need to be learning this stuff, I want a free education, I'll work hard for nothing or whatever. Just to find a starting point, get your foot in the door, and then pursue it if you think so. If not, once you have your foot in the door, you can tell if it's something that you'd like to do. That sort of thing. But because of that, I get to do cool stuff like this, where I come and talk to you guys. I get to play my drums whenever. If I need a crash for a gig, I don't have to ask anyone. I'll be like, I'll just take this one for tonight. That sort of thing. There's all these crazy benefits that come along with it. Obviously, there's a lot of work. In the entrepreneurial sector, I had to figure out how to start my own business, to take over the business, to transfer stuff. I deal with accountants. I deal with paying bills. Yes, that stinks, but that's all part of life. So, my advice to you guys is, if you're interested in it, if you're interested in percussion or drumming specifically, or if you have other passions, there are ways that you can make money at it. Start to reach out to those people. Ask them what they do. Ask them their story. Not saying that everyone's story has to be the same. Everyone's going to be completely different. But start to talk to people who are doing what you want to do, and see what all the fuss is about. All right? So, what are we at time-wise, by the way?
It is 11:03.
Okay, perfect. So, I have something for you guys. Now, we are sponsoring the speed pad during camp here. I don't know if you guys have talked about that yet, but we're sponsoring that. The winner of that gets a loaded stick bag full of all sorts of awesome stuff. Sticks, obviously, are in there. Drums, etc. merch, obviously. All sorts of awesome stuff. But in addition to that, I want to give you guys something else. So, I have gift cards for drums, etc. You all get at least $5. But one of these gift cards, and I don't know because I've already mixed them up, so I can't even track it. One of these gift cards has $100 on it.
Oh, give me. Oh,
Sean wants to enter. He's not entering. But, so, I don't know how you guys want to do this, but
Like pick a card style.
like pick a card, but you'll flip it over and there's nothing there. You got to come into the shop to check it out. But I want to give you guys all something to get you guys going. Whether it's on your next pair of sticks, it's on something else. Feel free to let us know if you're looking at something or you saw something. But does anyone have any questions about gear? If they saw something at a school or at a venue or anything like that? Because we're real nerds about the nuts and bolts about absolutely everything. I don't know about that one. But if you have any questions seriously about anything about double pedals or whatnot.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Alright, so,
You got a question right here.
yeah, what's up?
For so we had the stands where we were putting sheet music on.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed Rick had these clips that would hold the sheet music into
Yeah.
Did you sell that there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can get you some. Yeah, that's really handy, especially if you play outside. Last year I had this nightmare gig. We were outside on the back of a truck in the middle of a field, and it was windy. And we had music, and it was, listen, no one could read the music because it was going, or it was a mile away. So, great thing to have in mind. I don't know if any of you guys march, but I know having those little flip books are incredible to have with you to start out, especially when you're first learning. So, unless you guys have any other questions, go ahead.
Can we talk about the difference between bright and dark symbols?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, the difference is tonality that you're hearing with your ears. What the kind of entry-level words that I use when folks are learning and shopping for different things is, do you hear something that sounds crisp and shimmery, or do you hear something that sounds slightly very controlled, potentially distorted a little bit. So this is considered a dark sounding cymbal. Right? And this is a very bright cymbal. So it's gonna be one of those things where you'll develop your ear as you play and as you try different things. You'll eventually get to that point. When I sell someone their first drum set, we don't talk about any of this. I just say, you need to start with something, here's what you start with, and then when something sounds off to you, you let me know. Parents will say, how do we know when it's time? They'll tell you when it's time. Meaning, you'll be like, hey, and we've had this conversation before, you'll be like, hey, my ride just sounds a little off, like my hi-hats are fine, like whatever. But then, if it was Sean when he first started, he might have thought the hi-hats were off, that sort of thing. That's you just developing your ear from time, right, over time. All right, cool. Any other questions? Yeah.
Stick question.
Yeah.
What's a recommended stick for a concert snare drum?
Yeah, so I've got some specific stuff. Are you're going to stop in after? I mean, you got a gift card now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll show you a couple things because a lot of the concert snare stuff is all about like the tip and the rebound, that sort of thing. So that's really important. So we'll talk about that. But we can use this time that we have left. Yeah, we've got some time we have left for you guys to come up, check some stuff out, play some stuff, ask me some more questions. But I wanted to give you guys time to check stuff out. If there's something here you haven't seen before, if you want to try stuff out. All right, sounds good. Question?
What's selling like hotcakes? What does everybody come in for to like?
I'll tell you. I was prepared for this.
Yeah. What's the latest and greatest?
That's what everybody.
Here it is.
Oh,
Can anybody tell me what this is or what it's for? This is what it's all about, folks. It's not the fancy snare drum. It's not the cymbals. This is what our business is built on.
I lost that piece.
I lost that piece.
Can you help me?
That's it. That's the phone call we get. That's when people walk in. This is actually a key bolt for a pedal that screws in right there and holds your beater in place. But if you don't have this, nothing else will work, right? So that's also an important thing to bring up is we do like full service and repair and stuff at the shop, and that is where like we meet people. It's like, hey, I need this, and they show up, and it's like, okay. It's not every day that we sell a whole bunch of nice shiny cymbals or a drum set or something like that. But it's really important that if you do anything, no matter this goes beyond music or beyond what we do, that you fully support the people who are supporting you and the brands, and you help people out. That's really what we're in the business of, is helping drummers. Whether it's education, whether it's literally we have the part, it's really, really important to us. That should be some sort of mission statement that we have. Good question.
Why did you guys move?
Why did we move? We moved because the previous owner, before he sold the business to me, turned that building into an apartment building. It had nothing to do with COVID. Yes, you can groan. It had nothing to do with COVID. It had nothing to do with the times. It had nothing to do with me even coming in. That was before I even had the opportunity to come into the business, rather than just being a guy on the floor selling stuff. But that building, he added a full third story to it, and there's now 22 apartments there, which is wild. But I will say it's very cool because he has all sorts of like drum fixtures and stuff. It is like the coolest place for a drummer to live. Knowing that it was drums, etc., you can literally be in one of the lesson rooms, that's where you live, and you have like cool drum stuff everywhere, and there's a lot of history there. So
So he kicked you out and made it into an apartment.
Well, he kicked himself out. This is before me. This is before me. He kicked himself out into a different place. He moved the business so he could turn that new apartment. That was his goal for a long time. So. Yeah, I know. But don't worry, don't fret. This is not the last place you'll see drums, etc.
Yeah, it's just so much smaller. And the previous one was like behind my house. So
Yeah, wow.
I walked over there and got my first cymbal actually.
Wow, very cool. Very cool, man. Awesome. All right, one last thing. I wanted to offer up any of you guys that might be interested. Like I told you about my story, I just started showing up at drums, etc. And it eventually turned into a job, which turned into a passion, which turned into my career, right? If anyone has any interest in shadowing, seeing what we do in more detail, you're more than welcome to come to the shop. Schedule anything with me or Sean. We're really easy to find. And we'd be happy to share what we have as far as knowledge, as far as the business thing. We're here as a resource for you. We're your local drum shop. That's it. Thanks for listening, guys.
That's awesome.